I was sitting here, I think it was last year, and Elsa came up and gave her testimony, and I thought, you know, just got a feeling I should give my testimony. Nobody's heard my testimony. And you probably, a lot of you are going to have a hard time believing a lot of it. So, and that's okay. You know, take it to God. Because every experience I've had with God, I've taken it to the Word. And where is this in the Word? Did this ever happen? So I'm going to give my testimony. I was born a long time ago. March 25th, 1950 in Memphis, Tennessee. So that means next month, if you're calculating, on March 25th, I'll be 75 years young.
Amen.
I had to look into the Word to see what does God say about testimony. And so Revelation came to my mind just immediately. Revelation 12, verse 11 says, and they overcame him, that's the red-tailed boy, Satan. What did they overcome him with? The blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. So think about it. Everybody's got a testimony. Think about yours. I just wrote mine down just as an exercise, just to get it all down. And they didn't love their lives to the end. So there's power in somebody's testimony. There's power in your testimony. Because you alone know what you've been through. And God was with you every step of the way. And let me tell you, He was there before you put your faith in God. He was just, like I just put it, we were walking, just taking one step at a time. But we didn't know that there were big walls that were like this that kept us in the way that we were supposed to be going. You don't see those walls. You don't see a lot of things, but I'm going to share some things that you wouldn't see unless God opened your eyes. So, you know, I was the oldest girl. I had an older brother. And we had dogs, cats, gerbils, lizards, and my brother had a snake, which I didn't like. Both my brother and the snake, you know. So, and we were always playing something. And I remember I must have been about 3 or 4. And the guys had just blacktopped the road outside. Well, we 3 girls had to be out there playing that. They had black stuff from our head to our feet. I remember this. And Mom was furious. And she set Dad to work. Got us all in the bathtub. That's when 3 of us could sit together. You know, got out the turpentine and the rags. And I still can smell that turpentine. I'm telling you. But he got us home. So it was amazing the things we got into. And I remember the ice cream truck. You know, I mean, come on. When you're 3 years old, I thought the world revolved around ice cream. I mean, come on. So anyway, my older brother, he was hot. It was one summer day, and he wanted to eat it really fast. Well, it got stuck to his tongue, and so he was jumping up and down. So we go running inside. Mom, you know how many times you hear that? Mom this, Mom that. Anyway, so she rinses his mouth out, and he gets rid of the popsicle. But I thought he deserved it. He was kind of mean anyway. You know how girls and boys get along. Siblings fight. And we did. And, you know, I mean, my mom tried to get us involved in plays and, you know, dance recitals, music. And one time I auditioned for a play at they were putting on a Wizard of Oz in the Overton Park show. I think I had 2 lines that I memorized. 2 lines. And I gave them. But the fun thing was you got to wear makeup. And everybody was looking at you. And I was like, oh, ooh. You know, whoopee. But I also, you know, had charge over the little ones. So did a lot of diaper changing, did a lot of feeding, and one evening I remember taking my little sister Kathy upstairs to put her to bed, and everybody had a turn to do that. So, and she'd get into the room, and you had to carry her, sing her songs, tell her a story or whatever. And she'd say, "Turn the light." So I carry her over to the light switch, and she just wanted to turn the light off. Whoa! So I bragged to my friends that she could speak French. My little sister can speak French. Turn the light. So, and I remember my other little brother, with the oldest and the youngest were boys, and the rest of us four were sandwiched in between. And so we kind of ruled everything because we outnumbered the boys anyway. I remember Gary coming home, and he was born, you know, August the 13th of '60. But you know, Mom was just had it with having kids by that time. But we were raised Catholic, and they didn't believe in birth control then. So there were 6 of us, and I was happy with every one of them. Well, my mom not so much. She could have stopped after 4, but anyway, we had a lot of fun and just played all the time, and till my mom started getting sick, and you know, I remember one night she got the girls to share a bed so that she could stay in there because she was coughing, and she didn't want to keep Dad awake, so she went to the other room to sleep. Well, in the morning, I get up and Dad's on the line on the phone. We only had phones in the hall, and it was calling an ambulance because he couldn't wake her up. So I was like 15, and we took her to the ER. I got dressed. I was the only one dressed because all the little kids needed help dressing, and I wasn't totally with it then, but I was like 15, and we got to the ER, and one of the nurses came out and took me for a walk. Said, "Your mom didn't make it." Well, we didn't know what to do. We were used to having 6 kids around the table, and Mom at one end and Dad at the other. And with her gone, I mean, Dad didn't know what to do. Nobody could tell us what to do. So Dad took me to get my driver's license early. So I got my driver's license at 15 because somebody had to drive. So anyway, that was the toughest time. I think that was about as close to hell as I'd ever get. And it was tough. We all go through tough stuff. But I know God was with me then. And so we just kept plodding, kept going to school, kept doing the things we always did, you know. And at the wake, one of the nuns came up to me and said, "Now you're going to have to be the mother." I thought, oh, that broke any resolve I could have had. It just broke me. I don't know why it broke me, but I thought, nobody can do what Mom did. My mom was amazing. She took care of 6 kids, and she worked. The ER that we took her to, she had already been working as a nurse anesthetist in that hospital, so a lot of them knew her. And I'm sure the ER nurse knew her, because they'd have to call her on emergencies, or somebody that's wanted to have a baby way too soon, or whatever, you know, just emergencies. So they knew my mom. And but you know, just the hard times that you go through, you realize God's in those hard times too. He's right there. He's just kind of carrying you through it. When nothing makes sense at all, He never leaves us. He never forsakes us. And but it really takes a toll on you, because like 2 years later, I came down with type 1 diabetes, and it was like, I felt like, oh, I've got a death sentence now. Nothing good can come of this. Oh my goodness. But the emotional heaviness was just so tough. And I remember during these times, you know, like I remember JFK being killed. I was in the 8th grade. You probably all remember something at that time. You probably all remember where you were 9/11. Most everybody knows what you were doing that day, you know. And, you know, but I went and plugged on through high school, graduated, got a scholarship to go to St. Joseph Hospital, which is another hospital where my mom had worked. So everybody kind of knew you, you know, they kind of checked on you, checked in on you. I really appreciated that, especially when you don't have a mom you can go to anymore. I didn't know how to talk to her. I'm sure she was in heaven because I did have an out-of-body experience at a New Year's Eve party, and this was in, when was that? It was right after high school, graduated, so it was in the 70s. And we were at a New Year's Eve party, and we'd run out of beer, of course. You had to have beer at this time, you know, I know. I thought you did. Anyway, I went to purchase more drinks, and I borrowed the truck because we used to do a lot of riding and showing horses too. So, but I don't remember finding where the beer place was, and but I had a telephone pole, hit a utility pole, and you hit your head, get a pretty good gash, and you're going to bleed. So they took me in an ambulance to the ER. The St. Joseph Hospital.
Wow.
You can't get away from these places. Anyway, a friend of mine was working that night, and she said, you know, your blood pressure started crashing. And I just started turning up the IV. Thank goodness my friend was there. And because I remember I was floating out of my body, and I was looking down. A lot of people say they have these out-of-body experiences. Well, I was looking down, I could tell you what every nurse was doing and what the doctors were doing. And they transported me to the x-ray to make sure I didn't crack my skull or whatever, I don't know. And I was up there too, and my mom was with me. And my mom was the only one that I knew, because this was before I gave my life to the Lord, that she just brought me comfort. I knew everything was going to be okay. I knew it was going to be okay. I don't know how I knew, I just knew. So I finally graduated nursing school. I mean, I got in and got out of the hospital in no time. I didn't have any complications. And I graduated in 74, and I passed with National Honors. So the good thing about National Honors is you can go to any state, and all you have to do is just apply for a license, and they give it to you. They don't check anything. They just know that you were smart enough to pass with nationals. And so my sister Kathy was up in Alaska, and she said, "Why don't you come up here?" I thought, what am I? So I went up to Alaska, and that Alaska trip was just so beautiful. Any place you want to go, I definitely go there. You know. And the first thing I wanted to do was look for a church. Why? Because I think people were praying for me. That's the power of prayer. Because I was nowhere close to being sweet and wonderful and lovely as I am now. Nowhere close to it. So I heard the gospel message. I know we were raised Catholic, but we didn't hear the gospel message. I heard the gospel message at a Southern Baptist church in Anchorage. And in November of '79, I gave my life to the Lord. I heard the good news that He loved me. And let me tell you, it made an impression on me. It made an impact on me. I knew that Jesus was living on the inside of me now. And I wanted to be the best I could be. And everything looked, tasted better. It smelled fresher. It just was I was born again. And boy, I had to get a Bible. I had to have me a Bible. And I got into the Word, and I'm still hungry for the Word every day. Because you get imparted something. You may not know what you need, but He does. He made you. So, and John 15:15 says that Jesus calls us friends. So He's not this holier than thou. Well, He is holier, but He's not one ready to smack you down when you get out of line. No, He's going to love you. That's what those walls are on either side. You can't climb up that way. You can't climb up that way. You might as well go straight, because you can't. He makes the way. He is the way. And that's love. So God started to use me in prophecy. So I would just know what God wanted said. Because I was just reading the Word. I was studying the Word. I would just consume it. Any time I was awake, I wanted to be in the Word. And I remember thinking, maybe I should, while I'm up here in Anchorage, maybe I should go to Anchorage University and work towards my degree in nursing. Because I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. I always had. And so I thought, well, Lord, what do you want me to do? And this was in 1980 or so. And I asked God if I should go. Well, I went to sleep that night. And Jesus comes in the room. And His face was glowing. His whole being was glowing with love. You don't think love has temperature, has a light? Jesus does. And He's bringing in a little bitty suitcase. And He brings it over to me, and He puts it under my bed, this suitcase. I thought, oh, He must be going somewhere. And He reaches out His hand, and I grab His hand, and we go up. And I can remember thinking, oh, that body's heavy. And where we were was light. I mean, we went through the heavens. We went through galaxies and stars to the very gates of heaven, and heaven was like a 4 square. And I saw all of this in the Word of God. And the love of God it was all-consuming. And I had to see, where is this in the Word? Because I'm not gonna be shystered by something. But Acts 22, 14 and 15 says, and this was when Ananias went to talk to Saul. And he said, Ananias said to Saul, the God of our fathers has chosen you, that you should know His will and see the just one, and hear the voice of His mouth, for you will be His witnesses. He said He calls me a witness. He calls us witnesses of what we've seen and heard. Well, I don't think I told this to anybody. In fact, I'm pretty sure I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. I just didn't. And so He, like I say, He used me to prophesy. And then one day, I was hiking the Chugach mountain range that surrounds Anchorage, and they're beautiful. When blueberries are in bloom, the whole mountain ranges are blue. That's how much blueberries there are. Wild blueberries. and it was beautiful up there. And the sleeping ladies on the other side of Anchorage. You can see this from downtown Anchorage. And Chugach Mountain was just kind of surrounded. And he started to give me an open vision. My eyes were open, I was hiking, and I saw these fires that started in the east of America and went west. And I knew that they weren't just fires, you know, they were fires of revival. And they spread across from east to west, and then all of a sudden I was kind of like higher elevation, and I could see the whole world caught on fire. And I knew that this was like the end time revival, the last great end time revival. And one day God spoke to me life. Let me tell you, when God speaks, every cell in your body hears it. I don't care what you're doing. It doesn't matter. If you're hooked into Wi-Fi, you got, you know, have your music cranked up all the, when he says life, you hear life. I thought, life? What? Whose? Mine? So I knew that the only thing I had that summer was I had to go back to Memphis because our softball champions were having a reunion. And I thought, well, good, but I know that there's a lady preacher in Memphis, and I just want to talk to her. I want to see where she went to school. I want to know a little something about her. Anyway, so I talked to her, and I said, where'd you go to school? What do you think she said? Life. Life. So I knew I had to go. And apparently, Life is a lighthouse for international Foursquare evangelism. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know nothing. So I attended Life Bible College in LA from 81 to 82, and that's when Jack Hayford was the president. And a lot of people have heard Jack Hayford on preaching. He's a dynamic preacher. But when we prayed with him, it was such an honor to just pray with that humble man. Such a humble, kind-hearted man. And one night, I had a suite mate that wanted to go for a run. Well, downtown LA, you don't go for runs at night. Well, we did. So we were out running around Echo Park, which is right across from Angela's Temple, downtown LA. And so we're running around Echo Park. And all of a sudden, my eyes are open to see these two warring angels dressed in white on either side of us. They were like 10 or 12 feet. They were humongous. And they had wings, and they were in perfect step with us. Perfect step. And let me tell you, ain't nobody gonna bother you when you got angels like that around you. So, I remember, I had to see this. I mean, am I losing my mind? Have I lost my mind? Probably, but you know, who's going to miss it? Psalm 91:11 says, He gives His angels charge over us to keep us in all our ways. That's why I'm saying, don't get too hung up on how you go through life. Get in the Word and let the Word interpret it. So anyway, we were there in the fall of 81 and the spring semester of 82. And so I talked my roommates into going up to Anchorage. I said, we should go up to Anchorage. People go up to Anchorage all the time. They'll go on fishing boats and earn enough money for the whole next year. And so I said, well, let's go up there. So I talked two of them into going with us. with me, and we went and we worked at a children's Life Alumni had a children's church. So we helped her out, and she was nicest lady, and we stayed there. And I worked nights at Providence Hospital, where I left to go to Bible college. And so the nursing supervisor was there, and one night I was taking care of this ventilator-bound guy, and the nurse supervisor came up to me and said, "Can you take care of this guy? You know, because number one, he's probably not going to make it through the night. He's probably not going to make it." And can you handle a ventilator? Yeah, I can handle a ventilator. So can you handle if you have to defibrillate him, can you handle that? Yeah, I can do that. So, I mean, I've had years in the ER, so I've had these things. You develop expertise with it. So I took care of him, and he was the only one I had during the night. And I didn't know, you know, what to do, how to pray. I didn't know how to pray for him, so I just started praying in tongues. That's one good thing. That's just one good thing about praying in tongues. But I kept praying for hours for this guy. Oh, out loud. I was just, I don't care who came in, it didn't matter to me. And I just prayed for hours and hours and hours. Well, during those hours and hours, I had to give him a round of resus meds. You know, usually do epi and bipolar. And hand on the paddles, you know, and shock him when he was in B-fib. He had so many episodes of B-fib. I lost count. Where he had to shock him. He had to resus him with the drugs, and then he had to shock him. And I was just praying in tongues. And I knew that this guy was talking something over with God. I didn't know anything else about him. I knew nothing about him. I didn't know if he was you know, he shoveled snow for a living. I don't know. I didn't know. So before the end of the shift, I mean, I was working 11 to 7. But before the end of the shift, I thought, this is the last time I'm going to shock them. Number one, if you shock people, they tell you, oh man, I am so sore. What did you hit me with? I feel like you pummeled me all over. Well, when you shock somebody, every muscle in their body, that's why you get the rise of them off of the table. But anyway, I said, oh, I just can't do this anymore, Lord. This is it. And it was about the end of the shift. So I gave him another round of the epi and the bicarb. And I put the paddles on him, as I'd done numerous times that night. But this time, the power of God, I felt it go through my shoulders, down my arms, into those paddles, and when I discharged the paddles, this guy woke up. And he looked at me. And he started to want to talk and tell me something. Well, he had an ET tube sticking out, so he couldn't tell me. So, at the end, you know, I'm reporting off. I told the nursing supervisor, and usually you don't get the nursing supervisor who supervises the whole hospital come talk to you because she says, you know, he was a pastor, or he is a pastor. So I didn't, it wouldn't have made any difference to me at all, but I didn't know he was a pastor. So the thing that I did know is that I've been part of a miracle, and I've prayed. So don't ever stop praying. When you think somebody is beyond the possibility of anything good coming out of them, don't stop praying. So, about this time, we're getting towards the end of the summer, and we got to head back. So we were planning on just I had a VW camper van, and we were praying for this pastor in New York. Every day his name came up, and we prayed and prayed. I didn't know anything about this pastor in New York. I didn't know anybody in New York. I'd never been to New York. So, the long and short of it, after the praying, we got the idea that God wanted us to go to New York instead of down to LA. Well, that was a little bit of a try, so we're fine. If that's what you want, I need 4 things. Number 1, I need a new engine. I need new tires. I need enough money. And I need the time that I need to get there. So I was still thinking I was going back to Bible college. So I had that. And the last day when we were going to head out, we had breakfast with some friends because we met a lot of great folks up there. And they said, well, this guy came up to me, and he was wearing a plaid shirt and jeans, and he had blue eyes, and he looked at me and he said, looks like you're going on a trip. Have you got everything you need? And you know how you can tell the eye is a mirror of the soul? I knew I was talking to an angel. There was no doubt in my mind. Because this guy is pure. And I think, I thought about the things that I'd asked the Lord for, and I had them all. I said, no, sir, we don't need anything, but thank you for asking. I was going to tell the girls, this guy's an angel. I mean, you got to look at him. This guy's an angel. So, by the time I turned around, he disappeared. And I thought, well, he knows that I know that I got everything we need to go across New York. And it confirmed it to me. Confirmed it again on the way. Alaska, the interior of Alaska is gorgeous. Gorgeous. When you get to see, the mountains out there and wildlife all the time, you're seeing grizzly bears. You see, you see all kinds of animals. It's beautiful. But the roads, they don't get much work done on them because there's snow so much of the time. So we were heading up a hill, and I was pushing it because we just needed to make certain amount of hundreds of miles a day. And I was pushing up this hill, and it had been raining. Well, the tires got stuck. And all I did was say, Jesus! Immediately my eyes were open, and there was a chariot with 2 white horses pulling it, and 2 angels standing in the chariot. One of the angels had the reins. The other angel had this chain that he was swinging with a hook on the end of it, and it hooked onto the front of my bumper, and immediately we got traction. We got up the hill. And we didn't have any more trouble getting across to New York. So we came to New York. These things just happen. When God calls you to do something, He'll make a way. You're not going to get stuck. I don't think you'll get stuck. You're not getting stuck. I don't care what happens. He'll send angels and chariots if needed. But Jeremiah 33:3 says,
Call unto me, and I will answer you.
I'll show you great and mighty things that you know
and
not.
show you great and mighty things that you don't know. So we get back to New York. Cheryl feels like she shouldn't go back to school, and I felt the same. And God said, no, it's time for you to go home. And Feline caught a flight so she wouldn't miss out any of school. And I moved back in with my dad. I mean, he had a huge old house in Memphis that was like 3,500 square feet. It was huge. So I helped him, and I was working in the as an RN at the ER at Le Bonheur Children's Hospital in the emergency room. So, and around January of 1992, Holy Spirit told me, go downstairs and talk to your dad. Well, Dad had some Alzheimer's, and he had been bedbound too. So, but at 2 in the morning, he was clear-headed, and I led him to the Lord. And 2 months later, he went home to be with the Lord. So, and God still was giving me visions. So one day, he gave me this horrific vision. It wasn't just all that pleasant to experience, but I knew my pastor at the time, Malcolm, was going to be in a horrific accident. And I told him, I shared it with him. I said, listen, I know this is going to happen. I don't know when, but I know it's going to happen. So what I committed myself to do is just to pray. To pray. You can't just pray. That's a contradiction in terms. Because when you pray, you turn things, you prepare things, even if it's inevitable that something bad is going to happen. You can have an impact on that. So, in '92, Malcolm said, you know, we're thinking about taking over a church, and this was in Memphis, thinking about taking over a church in Michigan. So it's either going to be Grand Rapids or Lansing, so why don't you go up and check them out? So I went up and checked them out. And I just knew that it had to be Lansing. So there was a church up there that the pastor was leaving, and so we had our eye on that one. So I told him, I said, it's got to be Lansing. So we moved up to Lansing and took over a church work up there, and I was in charge of the prayer team. And you can't stop me from praying. I mean, I'm going to pray. I pray for you guys every day. So we're in this together. So I got a call from somebody that said, you know, Malcolm's been in a bad accident. Well, and he had been. And he lost his leg, and he almost lost his life. But the car behind them was full of paramedics that were just getting off work. And they knew how to put a splint on and put a tourniquet on. And they saved his life. But he did lose a leg. And it was a horrific accident. So, and I knew, because I'd seen that vision, that my time in Lansing was over with. So I was going to head out. I didn't know where. I knew it was going to be east. And that's where I started looking east. Well, my sister Kathy was in Boston. I thought maybe it's Boston. So I went to Boston. I went to Boston. And I went to check out Cheryl, who had been on the prayer team with us and went to Anchorage with us. And I knew it was going to be New York. So here I am in New York. I've just been directed. My whole life has been directed by prayer. And prayer works. Even when you think it doesn't, it's working. And when I got here, God told me I wouldn't be moving again. We'd go on trips, we'd go on, cruise, whatever, but we're stable here. And I started working as a family nurse practitioner. And I attended the Seed of Abraham because I always wanted to know the Jewishness behind this Jesus in the Bible. And I finally really got that down from them. And God, you know, He frequently still uses me in prophecy. And I gotta tell you, you know, you think some of these things are far-fetched, but, you know, God says in Joel 2:28, says, in the last days, you probably all know this, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. So, get ready for this. That's all I'm saying. Ask God. He'll give it to you. You want it, you can have it. And I want to end with what I started with, Revelation 12:11. And they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their life unto death. Go for it. I'll let you guys get up and head out. Thank you.
Thank you.